good evening. It's February, and there was still a smidge of light after 5 p.m. Also, the groundhog has said we'll have an early spring, so I'm feeling cautiously optimistic about that. Very cautiously. I hate feeling like I'm rushing time, but this is definitely the point of the year when I am completely over winter. And I was just sold two very exciting suitcases in the next room. So, I'm all set. Um, so speaking of time, we're well into the second semester now, and tonight is the last of our school-based presentations for the year, and they've been so much fun this year to get to have some insight into what our incredible teachers and students are doing in our classrooms, um, in alignment with our strategic planning. And it's just always, there's a lot about our job that's very important but not as fun. And that's the really fun part. And we love getting to see what's happening in our classrooms and in our schools. So thank you to our Greeley students for joining us tonight and for their parents. It's always fun for us to learn with and from you. It makes this work so much more fulfilling to get a glimpse into the teachers and leaders that we're sending out into the world. And it's very clear that these kids are ready to go out and be teachers and leaders in our world. We hosted the first of our two scheduled board coffees this afternoon. As we said before, this is just a different format for us to try to open communication with the community. We know these times were not ideal for everyone. We're playing with times and formats over the course of this year to try to find what's best, and may end up with a little of this and a little of that over the year to hopefully be able to accommodate everybody who wants to come in some format. Please know that you can still always reach out to us by email or phone to discuss something or ask a question. We're getting, very understandably, a lot of questions and feedback on the budget overview. We tried to address some of that with people who came to discuss it at the coffee today, and ask that if you do have questions and or concerns, that you please take the time to watch the budget presentations that will begin in March. We hope and think they will answer a lot of the questions people have and address a number of the concerns, and give you the information you need to draw conclusions. Obviously, you can always come and attend our meetings. They are also live streamed, and we get the recordings up as soon as possible, generally within about 48 hours. So we hope everyone in the community will avail themselves of that information and then give us your feedback. So winter break begins next Friday, and now I got my suitcases. We hope that everyone has a fun and relaxing winter break with your families. Lunar New Year also begins this Saturday. We want to wish all of our families celebrating a wonderful holiday and a healthy and happy new year. This is the beginning of the Year of the Dragon. The dragon is considered an auspicious and extraordinary creature with many talents symbolizing honor, luck, and success, and bringing in a year of opportunity, change, and challenges. Hopefully the opportunities are many, the change is positive, and the challenges are opportunities for growth. So that's all I've got. I'll turn it over to Dr. Ackerman.
Great, thank you, Hillary. And if you could just pull up my presentation, community update. I want to talk about RFP that we will be putting out for public consideration in the next month. So in our strategic priorities, we've identified 5 areas that we're looking at in terms of moving forward, and part of 2 of the important considerations involve our elementary and middle school programs. So in terms of this is a slide that the community has seen before. In our areas of study, we are going to be looking at the demographic boundaries of our elementary schools as a way to address some of the concerns that families have been sharing with us around class size and whether or not it makes sense for us to consider redistricting. And so when a district is going to look at that, they normally have an outside agency conduct an extensive study. So part of what we are moving forward is we are going to begin that process. And to do that, we have to solicit experts to engage in a potential contract with. So we are going to start to begin that solicitation process. And we are also going to have a study done regarding our middle schools to determine if it would make sense for us to move into the Princeton plan. And what that means is that our 5th and 6th graders would potentially be in one building and our 7th and 8th graders would potentially be in another building. And so to make that decision, you again have to, districts often have an outside agency come in and do an extensive study and then present their recommendations to the Board of Education. So we're in a way beginning phase of this work. And right now it's just a question. Is this something that we should seriously be considering? And in order to gather that information, we're going to create an RFP so that we can look at different companies who are experts around these particular issues to potentially contract with to begin that engagement process for the district. And this is going to take a while. This is not going to be something that we hire someone to do the work and then we're going to be changing something for September. That is not the case. It would be something we'd be discussing all throughout next year and would be a multi-year plan if we were to make any changes to begin with. But the Strategic Planning Committee felt like this is very important for us to do a deep dive into as we plan for the future of this district. And so that's where we are. So we're going to, we have a draft RFP, our RFP that has been sent to the Board of Education. We plan to post it and do our legal process in February. And then our submission date will probably be at the end of March, and then the board will conduct interviews and potentially select an organization to move forward to begin the study. So I just wanted to share that with the community. We are starting that process right now. And then I asked Adam if he can talk and share with the board just where we are with 8th grade course selection for next year. And so I'm going to turn it over to Adam, and he's also going to talk about the grants.
So we're in course selection season across the district, having meetings with, students and parents that are transitioning. I know Greeley recently had an incoming 9th grade meeting to talk about the options that they have. I did want to highlight for 8th grade that as we did last year, students we're going to have science choices and math choices. And you can see the same choices as last year. Science choices will be living environment and science 8. We're going to recommend that students take living environment, but if they and their parents are choosing to opt out of that and into Science 8, that'll be an option. We need at least 10 students to run that course, but assuming we get 10 or more, we'll certainly run it. You can see the math choices there as well, same as last year. 3 different math choices. Enriched algebra, they're kind of in order of rigor. Enriched algebra is the most rigorous of the 3, and then algebra and extended algebra. We're going to recommend students either for algebra or enriched algebra. Last year and this coming year, we won't recommend students into extended algebra, but it is an option for students should they choose to take that course. The ones with the asterisks, the 3 with the asterisks, successful completion of those will give the student a high school credit in that course. On the right side, you can see the timeline. On February 27th, we're going to send out a letter to parents who have 7th graders currently that are moving into 8th grade. And that letter will describe these different courses and have some links to resources that they can explore. March 15th, we're going to send a letter with a link to the parent portal, which will have the recommendations. So parents will get to see what the teachers are recommending for their children. And then between March 15th and March 22nd, we kind of have this consultation period. So if parents have questions, they'd like to reach out to the teacher to discuss the recommendation, or counselor or administrator, they can do that between those, in between those dates. Ultimately, it is up to the parent and the student to make the choice. So they can override the recommendation and opt into the course that they choose. And then that waiver will be due on the 22nd. So if they get the recommendations and parents and students are comfortable with what's recommended, they don't have to take any action. But if they'd like to move up a level, down a level, choose a different course, then they'd fill out that waiver, and all of the waivers will be granted. It's really kind of an opt-in, opt-out type program. So that's the course selection process. All right, changing gears completely. On your agenda, you're going to see 5.5 and 5.9 are 2 different grants, one from Horace Greeley High School, written by Mary Devane, and the second is 7 Bridges, written by Lori Lichtenstein. The high school for several years now has done an in-school field trip. It takes an entire day. It's called Night in a Day, and they read the novel Night. And Mary Devane wrote a grant for really some concessions and refreshments for the students, because it's like an in-school field trip experience where they students spend time. They basically read the entire novel, have readers of the novel. We have a Holocaust survivor presentation during that day. It's kind of like a interdisciplinary English and 10th grade social studies experience, and all 10th graders participate. So they wrote a grant and got $400 from the Holocaust and Human Rights Education Center. So that was granted to Greeley. You'll see that on the agenda. And then on the right side, Seven Bridges also applied. The Enough Junior Club applied for the same grant and also got $400. They're going to use the money to buy T-shirts that say "We Walked," and they're planning an event as part of one of our Unity Days to raise awareness and education around anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. So thanks to the Holocaust and Human Rights Education Center, and certainly Lori Lichtenstein and Mary Devane for writing those grants, and as well as all the students that are involved in those events.
Now, Andrew Corsilli is going to talk about our Unity Day speakers that we have scheduled.
There we go. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm moving back.
Let me go back. Okay, so we have, I think, a great series of events planned for the district. We got some really good feedback from previous Unity Days where we did a mix of in-person and online events. Often the online events would end up for the younger students, and we moved to in-person for the high school students. And we've made an effort here where every single presentation and experience for kids are going to be in person on April 11th and 12th. So going back to the same organization that brought us Ken Wadike Jr., who spoke to our 7th through 12th graders, we are going to have presentations for 5th through 12th grade by what's called the Bridge Project. There's these two speakers, Kane Smigo and CJ Suit, who are, CJ is a poet and educator. He's the poet laureate of Chapel Hill. And Kane is a spoken word poet, international performer and musician. They're childhood friends. They put together a thing called the Bridges program, where it's about speaking across lines of difference, experiencing each other's culture. They tell their stories. They infuse poetry and music into it. They will also, although I think in our format, there'll be large assemblies, but they also do workshops with students around poetry writing and sometimes host.
But Stephen Goldberg, who was here for our last Unity Day from the Holocaust and Human Rights Education Center, who presented to our high school students on the history of symbols of hate, is going to now come to our middle schools and present a similar presentation to our 5th and 6th graders and our 7th and 8th graders. He's recently actually done his first presentation at a middle school recently. He's really excited to come back. So that will be happening on April 11th in person at both middle schools. Then for our K through 4 students, we have the Sankofa Drum and Dance Company. If you may remember, if you were at our community night day in June, they performed here for the community at Greeley, and it's a mix of drumming, songs, dance, and storytelling. They'll also bring a whole bunch of, I've told hundreds of drums to come with them so the kids can play, and so that's going to be an experience that our elementary schools will have. We are also, last Unity Day, some of our high school students elected on a field trip to go down to the elementary schools and spend time in the classrooms when they had an author talk that was online. They loved it. It was a little short, so we're planning on inviting high school students to come down for some book reading also at the during that time period for some of the elementary schools. And so I think it's going to be fantastic. We're lining up all the speakers and putting the schedules together for our schools, and then we'll be sending information out to parents as we get closer to the date.
Now we're going to just go over the activities for the rest of the month. So I just want to remind everyone, AJC is conducting focus groups, and so we've sent out an email asking parents to sign up. Our first one is tomorrow. If you are still interested in attending and you forgot to sign up or you're not sure how to do that, just reach out to us and we'll point you in the right direction. And we have a concert on Thursday night. Spring sports registration's beginning. And of course, we have opportunities for our CPSE families to start learning about what school is like for our incoming kindergarteners. And our next coffee with the board is on February 28th before our work session. So that is the end of the superintendent's report.